Now that the 2.5 RS motor is out, all we're gonna do is take the alternator and the AC compressor and swap it over to the new motor because it's a direct fit. There it is.
You get it?
Yeah.
Please. Because of the original RS harness still being in the car, all the key components are still RS. So that means that you need to switch over the RS parts to your new engine. Yes, so the AC compressor needs to switch over and the alternator is up to you. So if you have a 99 and up, they all come with this same connector. So whatever one's in better shape, use that one. If you have a 98 and older, you must stick with your original alternator because it has a different type of connector and the way the alternator triggers a little bit different. So if you have 98 and older, stick with your original one. 99 and up, pick whichever one you want. No matter what, your RS AC compressor or whatever car you have. Yep, everything that you put in should bolt right in. If it doesn't, there's a mistake that happened. Yeah.
Use an impact.
Yes, smash it in there as hard as you can. It'll be perfect.
All right, let's put this
Put that thing on there. It, like, if you give it a little more, you'll just go poop, and you're like, ah, oh, shit.
Good.
We're gonna kind of wiggle it, pull yours out. Wiggle it. Pull yours toward, yep.
Well, we're almost clear of that top bolt. There we go. If you were to pull, there we go.
There we go. Careful.
I'm gonna need a Technic shot after this. We just leave this out. We'll lose about 10, 15
Yeah, we don't
pounds.
need that. That's not that.
We'll just zip tie the dash in. That plug. This plug.
There you go. And then the one underneath.
Yep. This one. Little hidden gem here. That
There
one.
you go.
Man, I feel like I'm back in the bucket again.
That's right, you did this on your own car.
Yeah, this was all.
You did this on the bucket.
This was all done before I brought it to you.
What we want to check before we pull that box out is that this piece right here has been removed. That's the other side of that box, so that's the AC line. Normally you do that when you're pulling the engine, but if for some reason you're pulling the dash before the engine, make sure that you get this unbolted and disconnected, but also these two hoses. Because those are coolant hoses, they're gonna go that white box. So if these are still attached to the engine, you'll never get that box out. So now that we know that's disconnected and these are disconnected, you can pull those boxes out.
I totally knew that when I did the bucket. Why the box wasn't coming out. It took me a couple trips to the engine bay to actually find that out, but yeah, I did find it out.
I actually have had somebody, the AC box, disconnect it without disconnecting the AC. They didn't know. It broke and it exploded, like blew out into their chest sitting in the seat. So don't mess with that.
Is that the money shot, Brian?
Yeah, something like that. I think it's a money shot.
Like cha-ching money shot?
Yeah.
I'm gonna make sure I did the right bolt, right? I may not have done the right bolt.
Oh.
Yeah, I did the one beside it.
There should be one that...
Yeah, I did this one.
Wait, what?
I did the wrong one. I got it. It's this one.
Oh, yeah, that one. That's him. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. I'll put that other bolt back in once I get this out.
You're gonna take that one out too. So
Okay. Here we go.
Hey! Lesson learned. If it doesn't come out easily, don't pull on it.
Okay.
So if you want to take those two upper bolts out,
Yeah.
you can wiggle that thing. You just got to be careful because the directional vent
Down
piece,
here.
yeah,
Yeah.
you can break that if you're not careful when you're pulling that part out.
Yeah, so
So-
kind of want to dislodge the bottom a little bit and then
And then
wiggle the
pull the
top.
top. There you go.
Yeah. Still kind of connected down there.
There it
Yeah,
is.
so there's a little lip on the bottom that you want to clear, and it makes it a little bit easier to come out.
And then let's. Oh,
No, no. What?
You're gonna dump coolant all over your car. These still have coolant in them.
Oh. And it's plugged in still over here.
Oh, there's a bolt. Hang on. I got it. So there's one more bolt over here. I got it. I get it. I get it. Don't forget this one, everyone.
Don't yank. There's one bolt right there.
Right there.
One screw.
Yep.
And then also,
Don't dump coolant in your car.
don't dump coolant in your car. Put the alternator in.
I did not. It came together by itself.
Lance, the people want to see you put the alternator in.
The people know how to put an alternator in. It's fine.
You know how to put an alternator in because
See?
Lance says you know how to put an
I
alternator
do.
in. It's just a couple bolts.
It's fine.
But Dad, I don't know how to put an alternator in.
Well then, take it apart. Do it again.
That's what the other YouTube channels are for.
Yep.
Brian's been killing it in here. Yeah. I don't want no parts of that right there.
And then if you have a friend inside the cabin, that friend can pull out the harness. Oh, hi. How's it going? Kind of scared. Hey, friend.
Yeah.
You want to pull that harness out? I'm going to feed those out.
All right, that's about the extent of my wiring harnessing. I'm gonna turn it over to the real pro.
I think you did great.
All I did was kind of feed it through here. I mean, without me, it probably wouldn't have gotten done.
No,
for sure.
I mean, you certainly need to bring in the ringer at the end
Yeah,
to really handle it.
they call me the closer.
Yeah.
So just let me know when you want me to turn this like little spot right here.
Okay, you got
Right,
it.
with the little thing
Yeah,
you
fire it
put
up.
in there.
About ready.
All right, I'll be back.
So old, new.
So just so you get a grip on what exactly Brian does when he gets a harness, this is a factory harness that we just took out. So basically all this kind of stays the same up to the ECU part.
Yeah.
And then after the ECU is where he changes it like here.
Everything happens in this general region, which means that everything over here, which is all the stuff that talks back to the car, is exactly as it was. So your dash, your headlights, your taillights, your doors, all that's gonna work exactly as it did before. All we did was change the ECU and engine plugs, so you put your new ECU and engine in your old car.
Here's one in process right here.
All right, we're good.
Yeah.
Dude, I've had to drill those out before, and they suck.
20 years.
That is crazy that those came out.
All right, so here we have the STI front rack and subframe with the arms already on. We do have an STI sway bar as well. So we're just gonna drop out the 2.5 RS front subframe and put this up. I mean, what are we looking for?
So whenever you do an NA to turbo swap, you need a turbo crossmember. We'll show you here. There are grooves for the headers. They actually set them up for twin turbo cars, but really only need the one inside for the up pipe. But the other piece that happens when you do this is going to be dependent on which year car you have or which year crossmember you have. There's two different types. There's a direct mount and non-direct mount. It's the way that the steering rack bolts in. So depending on which crossmember you have will determine your steering rack type. We went with an 04 STI. It's non-direct mount. I would have liked to keep Bucky's original steering rack in there because it would have bolted up, but it's dead. So we're gonna replace it with this one, which means that we have a little bit wider track width. We're gonna have to adjust for that. And then the other piece that's gonna happen is we need a steering knuckle adapter, which is around here somewhere.
Yeah, so we're gonna take these arms and we're gonna measure the arms that are on the car now, and we'll have to adjust them in, and we have a good inch to play with on both sides.
Yeah. And then the other piece is that the spline pattern for where the steering rack bolts the steering column is different between GC and GD.
This guy.
So there's a company called L&E Fabrications that they make a bottom half GD, top half GC, so you can leave your steering rack as is. So the other option here is you could use the STI control arms, but the track width problem, we don't really have the suspension to deal with. We don't want to be pushing the tires, wheels and tires out too much because we already have alignment issues, rubbing issues. So we're gonna leave the GC control arms in the place, but if you look here, the one we'll show you when we get up there, the width of where the A arm bolts into the crossmember is slightly wider on GD. So we have shims, basic shims to bridge the gap so that you don't pinch it. It wouldn't be the end of the world, but the car would squeak when you go up and down driveways and things like that. So we'll also do a bunch more on the steering rack crossmember conversion, because there's a lot of nuance here on a blog post in the future, so keep an eye out for that. But basically, new crossmember, new rack, old car, a couple little adapter pieces.
Even that came out easy.
Oh my goodness.
Dude,
That's a good day right
that is a great day.
Something's on.
Something's priming, that's for sure.
Something's brown. Right now we have the new cross member that we're about to put on.
There's two ways of doing this. Now, whenever you get a cross member or a rack and pinion from a junkyard or a parts store, do not assume that it's already centered. If you look down here, you can see that one side is collapsed and one side is extended. Okay, what would happen if you don't center it, you're essentially going to break the clock spring inside the steering when you go to straighten your wheel. It'll bust the clock spring because it's not centered. So what you want to do is center it, and there's one of two ways you can do it. You can either clamp on to the steering part, spin it all the way one side, all the way to the other side, count it, and then center it that way. Or you can bolt it on, put it on the knuckles, center the steering, get it close, and then put on the intermediate shaft.
And we're going to do the latter of the two. We're going to bolt this up, center the wheels, and then we'll connect it to the shaft, and
He said shaft.
and we'll just have a very good rough base to go off of.
Still will need alignment when it's all done.
Yes.
This is only temporary.
Yeah.
So you drive it.
I don't know if you guys
Sam, do you wanna
recognize,
hold
but
the
Falls
pump
Off
in the
Frank is
lines?
now a cross member Frank.
Yeah.
He's been promoted.
He's very well diverse. Oh, you're spilling.
Oh, we're peeing everywhere.
Oh, that's it, Sam.
There we go. Wait, wiggle, wiggle. Wiggle, 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 wiggle. Yep, you good? Yep, can do those. You do not want to break
Look
those.
at that. Okay.
See, there's a gap on the left and the right. They're just basic washers from Home Depot. We're gonna slot one on each side to pick up the gap. That way it doesn't squeak.
And that's just to stop it from pinching in.
Yeah, then it'll
If you want to go really ghetto, just fucking send it and impact that shit. But I wouldn't recommend it.
There was a time.
There was a time.
I'd rather not speak about it, but there was a time.
There you go.
Like,
Get that there ball going on there. Come over here.
Mm.
Got it in. This is a good way to show people how to do it though,
Yeah.
without needing to know
Gosh,
how
that's
to
way
align
out.
the rack.
So as you can see, the steering input is totally all left. And plus you add the extra ½ inch, which this STI cross member and steering rack has. This is like some drift shit. So now we're about to center the steering rack. Right now it's about like that. Actually, it's about like that. But yeah, we're gonna slowly dial it in, adjust the arms. Yeah, that looks good. So as you can see, this one's kicked out pretty far. So, I mean, that's kind of straight there. But if you look on the other side, not so straight.
You're there. Nice. Nice. Feels solid. Perfect. Dude. Hey.
We found center the best we could, and Lance is going to walk you through how exactly he did that.
Okay, so it's not necessarily the best way to do it, but it'll get you where you need to go when you're in the middle of nowhere trying to figure this out, right? So basically you'll want to take the measurement, the distance from the notch to the rack is going to be where you want to measure. And that'll at least get you close. See how it's like 6 1/8 on that notch? It'll at least get you close so that you can get the car put back together and get it to the alignment rack. See that notch right there?
Next, we're going to lower the car, and then we'll attach the knuckle once we can center the steering wheel better. All right, we got Bob in the car. He has the key in the ignition, and he centered the steering wheel. So now Lance is going to put the knuckle on, or I'm going to put the knuckle on. Now, does it matter which way it goes? You just want
it
it to have
does,
a
because
bolt.
there's actually a groove right here where the bolt sits into. You feel that groove?
Yeah.
So that's, yep.
So that's where the bolt, so it goes like that.
That's good.
Yeah. Hold on,
There you go.
one more.
One more good dugga.
One more gadooga. Gadooga.
I appreciate it.
We're about to do the throttle cable, right, Brian? You're gonna run the new
so
throttle cable?
We have a brand new WX throttle cable. The reason that we do that is because the way that the throttle cable bolts up and the throw isn't going to be right to be able to run this cable on your main throttle spot. You could, if you didn't have a WX cable, cut the throttle body bracket or the cable bracket in half, switch the side to the cruise to the throttle, but then you lose cruise. So if you want this to work, you got to use a WX throttle cable, but it bolts right onto the RS. Everything's basically plug and play, so just swap it over.
It's locked in there, kind of. Is that what it is?
There it goes. Did you already disconnect it?
Nope.
I gotta get from this side.
There it goes.
Now you can has. Give me the other one. Hey, you guys got it in there? Huh?
You want to take out the old grommet, the old white grommet, and snap in the new one and run the cable through the firewall instead of the opposite way. So slide that back into place and then bolt it down. So you'll get rid of this off this pedal and put the new one in.
Once we pulled it through, it's set perfect. See how it's suctioned right on there? So Lance is looking very
that bad?
Mad Max-ish. He's got pinstripe.
I'm like,
All right, so what we're doing now is, this is the clutch fork. We're gonna put a new clutch fork in along with the clutch fork pivot ball. Why are we replacing this?
we are replacing that because it's super common, especially in Subarus, where this part will punch through because the actual pivot ball down here wears down. So every time you push the pedal, it goes like this.
And that wears over time.
And it wears
and will wear through the pitchfork.
So you replace this for the longevity of the clutch, the fork, everything.
Yep, and we're gonna grease that up and throw that on right now.
Oh, it's a good like climbing on WRX.
I don't know who this LASIK guy is, but man, this flywheel is sweet. Sick. This drops right in, Lance said.
It just drops right in. Just don't pull out that center shaft.
Ever.
Ever. Just leave it
It
in.
tends to not like that.
Now we got that.
I'm hoping these. There you go. The hater's gonna hate and the ain'ter's gonna ain't.
What does that say?
That is not how you spell Lance. That is not even kind of right. They really dropped the ball on my name.
Lance.
That's not Lance. The hammer that's not a hammer.
Thor. I am Thor, the goddess of clutch. Oh, I'm
Goddess.
Thor, the goddess.
He's the goddess of clutch.
I'm Thor, I'm the goddess of clutches.
That's how those things work.
Alright, so we're removing this O2 sensor so that the motor clears the chassis when installing it back in the car. And it's just for clearance. And I don't know who clearance is, but I guess they're kind of picky on their O2 sensors. So we're doing this for clearance.